Bonjour Flosstube, I'm Deb, I'm the Traveling Stocking Stitcher, and I'm here today to take you on a quasi trip to Paris through my stitching. So a while back I thought, well, it might be good to do a April in Paris theme Flosstube. And in order to do that, I was going to need to get stitching early on some things to have them done in time. And you might say I had a hunch back then that I might need to get some things done in time to do this. So I've worked on some things. I just finished up a Notre Dame piece last night and framed it up this morning. And so normally I'm a little bit behind because I normally put out my videos on a Friday. And because I wanted to wait to get this thing done, it's Tuesday, and by the time I get it edited and uploaded and everything, you'll probably be watching this on Wednesday, which is hump day. So I've got some finishes, I've got some whips. There's probably going to be a part 2 because I've got so many Parisian things I wanted to do and didn't have time to stitch them all. But let's go ahead and start taking a look at those. I am going to slip on something a little less this. Be back in a sec. Let's go to Paris. First time I went to Paris was in 1983 when I was in college and did tour Notre Dame. And then the second time was in September 2017 and didn't go inside but saw it from the outside. But we also had this fantastic Airbnb that was up on the top floor, which was actually the attic, the servants' quarters where the servants used to live. And so but you could look out over the rooftops of Paris on the Latin Quarter, and we could see Notre Dame. So every morning I would be there with my cup of tea, looking out the window, and then in the evening you'd see me at the window again, looking out the skylight, and seeing it all lit up and illuminated at night. It was just beautiful. So, and this was before the fire. The fire was almost exactly 5 years ago today, because it was April 15th, I think it was, 2019. And they planned to have it open in the end of this year, December 2024. They planned to have it restored and reopened to the public. So a little over 5.5 years they've got all that work done. So that's fantastic. So, but this is the booklet that I had. This is the Cathedral of Notre Dame is the name of the chart inside this book. It's from Stoney Creek Landmarks Around the World is the booklet name, and it is book 353. And they've got a number of different things around the world, but I thought this would make a good travel poster because it's the right size to fit in an 11 by 14 frame that I like to do, the poster frame. So here is my Notre Dame finish. It's a little gappy. I might have to get in here. Like I said, I just slapped it into a frame so I can get this video out. I might have to tighten up the corners a little bit and make it look a little less bunchy, but so as I was stitching, I worked from the bottom up. It took me a little while to get into it because there's a lot of grays and a lot of beiges and browns, which are not my favorite colors. But once I got into it, it was pretty easy to do. There is some tweeding, which Stoney Creek is what they call blending. You put 2 strands of DMC together and stitch those. Not a ton of colors, maybe, I don't know, 15 colors in the whole lot because there are so many of the same things. But it was pretty easy once you got going. A lot of back stitching, obviously, but it wasn't too bad because it wasn't irregular shapes. It was, you know, predictable. You know, these lines along here. You get the pattern down. You keep going. They're right angles, so there's not a lot of having to do a lot of detail. But amazing detail. I put up on Instagram kind of before and after I did. You know, one side of it backstitch and one side that wasn't backstitch. And I'll show you some pictures here of the difference that it makes with the backstitching. But as I was going along stitching, I started looking at the doors, and I started right to left for some reason. And I did these 2 doors, and you notice they're kind of dog-eared. And I got over here, and these were squared off. And I almost just said, well, that doesn't look right. I'm just going to dog-ear them. But then I thought, no, get your pictures out, take a look at them. And sure enough, you know, the pointiness of this door versus the rounded of those 2 doors, that's how it was. I couldn't find any good reason. If anybody knows why they're asymmetrical like that, let me know. The portals here it prompted me to actually end up doing some research, and I learned some stuff that I didn't know. So I'll give you a little history recap here, what I figured out or learned. So this is the portal of, on the left, Portal of Mary, where Notre Dame is Our Lady, so it's dedicated to the Virgin Mary. This is the last Judgment, and there's all kinds of stone carving depicting the Last Judgment. Of course, that's how the illiterate worshippers learned the Bible stories, because they couldn't read, so through the artwork and the carvings and that kind of stuff is what they learned. And then the one on the right is the portal of St. Anne. She was the mother of Mary. Over in this little niche over here, there's a little statue. That is the statue of Saint Denis, who is the patron saint of Paris. Now, he was also the first bishop and was very instrumental in converting a lot of pagans to Catholicism. Unfortunately, he paid the price for it. They beheaded him, and legend has it that when they did that, he just scooped his head up, stuck it under his arm, and walked 3 miles up to the top of Montmartre, which is the highest hill in Paris. And I mean, it's a tall hill. I mean, they have a funicular up there to run tourists up there, and those tourists did not walk over from Notre Dame, and they all had their heads. So, you know, he walked all the way up there, and then he died, I guess. But that's the story of Saint Denis. These are the kings of Judea. You don't have the detail because it would be hard to do that in cross-stitch. During the French Revolution, they mistakenly thought that they were the French kings, and the monarchy was not real popular back then. So the mob tore them all down and cut the heads off of them, and a lot of head cutting going off in France. They were empty niches for a while. They actually have replicas done, reproductions of the statues that are in there. But in 1977, they were doing some restoration work about 2 miles away in Paris, and found all the beheaded sculptures over there, the statues over there, underground, and somebody had buried them over there. So they're now just in display in the museum, Cluny Museum, which is across the Seine from Notre Dame. I didn't get to go see them, but they're there. And then I've covered up the rose window here. I'll do the big reveal later on. As I was stitching, I realized it fit really well right over where the rose window goes. So I'll show you that in a minute. But this needle minder is the first needle minder I bought, because I didn't know anything about needle minders until I started watching Flosstube, and we didn't have those back in the day. But it is the rose window in Notre Dame, and I'll show you the back side. It's got a picture of Notre Dame as well. But I really like this needle minder. It's big, it's flat. I wish it was a little stronger, but it's nice that it's not gonna, you know, sometimes you have rounded ones and they don't hold your needle. This is one of my favorite needle minders, my go-to needle minders. So that's in the middle there. I'll show you that in a minute. Then we've got normally the gargoyles hang out up here along this balustrade pier, or I think there's some up on the bell towers. I think there's some along the side too. We'll talk a little bit more about gargoyles when I show you my next piece. And this is the flesh. This, unfortunately, was a piece that was lost in the fire. This was a newer edition. This only came in the 1800s. And the Notre Dame had sort of really fallen into disrepair after the Napoleonic Wars, and it was The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Victor Hugo's novel, that really brought people's attention to, they were actually going to destroy it. They were going to demolish it and tear it down, and he brought attention to it. And Violet Leduc was the architect that came in and did a lot of the restoration, added that spire on top of it as well. There was some talk about, I didn't finish doing the research on this because I was finding conflicting reports of what they're going to put up there. A lot of people wanted to just put back up what was there, and then there's the people that say, oh, this is our new opportunity to, you know, get creative. So I'm not totally sure what's going to go up there in the future. I need to do a little more work on that. And yeah, that's what we got. And then the lettering up above, I had this fantastic lettering that, you know, looks like very French Gothic, and, you know, it's got a little fleur-de-lis in the middle of the O, and a lot of the, you know, off the sides of the letters. And unfortunately, I don't do a good job of planning my lettering before. I wasn't even going to put lettering on this, and then I decided, well, maybe I need to do that. And when I found this, it was the perfect lettering to put with this. And But to fit it in there, I had to do it 1/1, which 1/1 is not the relaxing activity that cross stitch is for me. If I had to do everything 1/1, I don't think I would do it. This is on 28 count. It's on white because of, with the clouds and that kind of stuff. It had to be white. And my concern was if I put it all the way across, it was going to run past the margins. And if I put Dom in the middle, it was going to like run into the spires and stuff. So I started at one end, started stitching this way, and then I started over here and started the Notre Dame at the other end. I did have to take the spire down to the cross on top of the flesh a little bit down, the little steeple thing, and remove that as well. So a couple other real quick fun facts. Notre Dame is over 850 years old. It took 182 years to build. So they broke ground in 1163 and dedicated it in 1345. It holds up to 10,000 people, and it's has a reliquary for the crown of thorns and a nail from the cross, and also a sliver of the cross. Now, those were spared in the fire, so they were able to salvage those, and they're okay. Coronation of Napoleon was done in Notre Dame. Normally the French kings are crowned in the Reims Cathedral, which is over in the Champagne region, but a lot of the French Republic's presidents had funerals in Notre Dame. Alright, so now we're going to look at the rose window. I'm going to take this off of here. And what they had you using was actually pretty easy to use. It was Glisten Gloss Rainbow blending thread. It's 900 is the number. And so you can kind of see the shininess on there. It's like a black multi-thread. And here is the rose window needle minder, and on the back side is, they're no longer on Etsy, so I can't tell you where I got it because you can't get them anymore. But that's just a side picture of Notre Dame. So here is the effect of the rose window. This is a statue of Mary with angels on either side of it, and I just thought it kind of turned into a pretty cool effect with how they had you do the back stitching of the windows. Yeah, thought it turned out very well. So that is Notre Dame. And next up we've got Gargoyle. Now this was from a company called Cross Stitch World Art Shop that's no longer on Etsy, and I just kind of popped this in here because I need to finish it off. I just taped it up because I wasn't sure. I was thinking about doing a border around here, a white border or a cream colored border, and I put it on Instagram, asked people what their opinion were, and I got kind of a split decision on things. Maybe just even around the bottom, if it didn't go at the top. I like the idea of keeping the sky open, but I just kind of wanted to put it in the frame and sit with it a while and see what I thought should be done with it. So this is done on 28 count Gothic and 2/2, and I didn't do a lot of changes to it. I did, some of the lettering didn't have all of the black shadowing on it. I fixed that up, and I think I brought the leg of the bridge down a little bit, and some of the red, these were pink for some reason, called the windows, and also the little lights on the road that are the cars, they were pink, and they look more true to the poster that this is based on. I used 606 on there. So the Anderson Design Group does travel posters. I think they're contemporary, but I think they're made to look vintage, and this is their version. Now this is based on an old black and white photograph of this particular gargoyle that's up there looking out over Paris. Now, I did kind of touch up the charting of the moon because it looked a little iffy, and there was some pink in the horizon, purplish pink in the horizon that I liked the look of, but I didn't want to do it. I thought I either got to go with the fabric or not, so I let that go. But there he is. So, some gargoyle fun facts. The word gargoyle comes from the Latin gorge and Old French gargoule, which is the noise of both water and air mixing in the throat. In English, it's the root of the word gargle, And the reason is because these guys are designed to be rain spouts, so the water comes in through the back and it shoots out their mouth and keeps the water away from the foundation. Now they have a lot of different sculptures on Notre Dame. Not all of them are gargoyles, because to be a gargoyle you have to be a functioning water spout. If it's just a decorative piece that doesn't have the water spout, then it is technically supposed to be called a chimera or a grotesque. So these kind of creatures, when we were there, the ones I took a picture on the side, these guys are kind of high up to see from the bottom, but on the side there was like a monkey, a goat, and some other nondescript mythological being. But they have a lot of different things. They were to kind of tell the people that, you know, these are the things that the church will save you from, the evil spirits and the creatures to fend off. So the bell ringer, Quasimodo in the book, found solace amongst the grotesques and the gargoyles in the cathedral. He considered them his only friends. Another interesting fact about the Hunchback of Notre Dame is in 2010 a British researcher discovered that there was a mason, a stonemason, who was working on the cathedral who had a hunchback. And there's a good possibility that Victor Hugo knew him and possibly used him as inspiration. The name Quasimodo is something else I learned, is the second Sunday of Easter, second Easter Sunday. And that's when he was left on the steps of Notre Dame. So the priest who took him in as an orphan called him Quasimodo because of that. So it's an interesting fun fact for you. So that is Notre Dame. Next thing, we've got some whips. I've done a little bit of work on this. You have seen this before, but this is Parisian Window by the Bivsters. Let's see, I think I'm about 42% done on this. Let me look at the notes. Yeah, it was about 39% before. I'm at 42, so I did a little bit. I did fill in some of the window box stuff down here and along here. So I haven't done a lot of this because I powered into the Notre Dame stuff when I dawned on me I wanted to be doing an episode on that. It's on 18 count white, and I'll probably turn my focus back on to working on some of that soon. Another one that I haven't done a lot on, but I did put a few stitches in here. This was this is Map of France, a Paris silhouette. It's from Zephyr Mood. It was 25% before. It's now 27.28%. There's only 9,500 stitches in here, so it's not too big. It's on 28 count spring watercolors linen, and it is from Fabric Flair. So a little bit more work on that. So it's going to look like Map of France, and then the Parisian silhouettes on the bottom with the name Paris. I'm going to do a hybrid. They had two different charts, and I'm going to kind of mix them together. And then I've got one not so active whip, but it is Paris related. I showed this quite a while ago, because it's been quite a while ago since I worked on this. Back in 2023, I was going to make this my New Year's resolution, and so I was going to stitch a strand a day on this, because I wasn't making very much progress on it. I want it stitched without having to stitch it, if that makes any sense. It's the rose window from the Cathedral of Rouen, and I visited there when I was in college, and it's where the French kings were all coronated. And it's on here so you can see it. The trick on this thing is it's from Mary Hickmott Designs and on Etsy, and it's every stitch is a Kreinick and DMC blend, which I can live with it. It's not bad. But it's also in black. And then I started this before Pattern Keeper, and now that I know what Pattern Keeper is, I really don't enjoy stitching that much off of paper. And tried to load it into Pattern Keeper, and half of it's on the bottom and half of it's on the top, and the overlapping, that they shade, that you just to give you a reference point from page to page, it was on both sides, and so they took out both chunks when you do the map because it was a single page of chart. And so when I loaded in a Pattern Keeper, it took out that whole swath down the middle. And I thought if I do it on Pattern Keeper, I'm just going to screw it up worse than it was. So, so this is what it is, and I hope someday. I also don't like just stitching a stitch a day or a strand a day. When I get into something, I like to do it. But so this is it. But this is the top part of the window. I haven't even gotten down to the rose window part of it yet. But it'll be beautiful when it's done. Just like I said, I want it stitched without having to stitch it. Seal of approval. I haven't watched a ton of Flosstube, but I do have a seal of approval that's related to our theme today. About 3 weeks ago, Chris Cross-Stitch did he took a trip to Paris. So he did an I Love Paris episode. It's episode number 73, and he shows you all his pictures from the tour, the trip that he went on. And so that was a fun thing to do, and I suggest you check him out because that was entertaining. And then I do have a thank you, or shall I say a merci beaucoup, for some stitchy kindness that I recently got. So Stephanie Wingett, who's Stephanie Wingett1 on Instagram, said she had a magazine, a duplicate magazine, and because it had a stocking on the cover of it, she thought of me. So she sent me my Stoney Creek Collection. This is from, what year is this again? July and August 1999. And, you know, when I'm making stockings up, you know, if I see an L design, I'm good. But sometimes you see a straight line thing, and I don't know what to do with the toes. So this gives me some good options of things to do with the heel and the toes to fill out the space of things. So that might be, and then there's also a lot of, I love this row of reindeer. You know, you're always looking for borders for things. There's alphabets in here. You know, you can't have enough alphabet choices. I almost always switch the alphabet when I'm doing Christmas stocking. And I like the trees here, and the poinsettias, a row of poinsettias on there. And then there's another one in here I thought was cute too. This is a Heavenly Christmas Joy. And, you know, this could be this stocking. I could just stitch this stocking right here as an ornament. You might have to take that little mouse off, which is unfortunate. But I could just stitch this up and make it a little ornament as well. Or a little stocking, you know, with a cat in there and just leave off the joy and the bell and that kind of stuff. So thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate that. So, I hope you enjoyed our trip to Paris today. I hope you'll come back for the next trip to Paris when I get some more stuff done. And thank you so much. If you want to leave a comment, that would be great. Like and subscribe. Other than that, we'll see you next time. Bonne journée.